Three, two, one. Three, two, one.
Oh, that face.
And a 3, 2, 1. Go.
Well, I mean, we've been live for 30 seconds. I mean, what do you keep 3, 2, 1-ing about?
Because I want you to go.
Well, I was doing my clean feed. I don't know why you went live so soon.
Oh, I said, let's go. And I thought we were doing it.
Okay.
Doing it well. Doing it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Shut up. The Broncos lose without a quarterback. The Saints win without a quarterback. Will Fuller has gone fishing. And what in the wide world of sports is wrong with Carson Wentz? All that and more on this episode of Unscripted. Hello, listener land, and welcome to the best damn fantasy podcast for your ears. I am your host, Randal Kennedy. I am joined, as always, by the gentleman on my right, Paul Lundegaard. You can find him at Paulie Sleepers. And the gentleman on my left, baby? Jake B-Song. You can find him at the BZBFF. Gentlemen, say hello.
What's up, baby?
What's up?
What it do, baby?
What it do, baby? I tell you what it do, baby. We got Wednesday football. We got week 12 isn't even over yet. And we're recording another episode. I think, did you guys see the meme of Lamar Jackson and Big Ben with these big long gray beards?
Yes.
And it's Steelers Ravens finally 2050 or whatever it was.
Yes.
I still don't get this. This is stupid.
It's beyond stupid. It reeks of preferential treatment.
Yep.
That's the only thing it could be. That's the only explanation plausible. I've heard that some Ravens players were threatening to not play, which would have been a whole thing with the union and ownership, and would have went beyond a strike. Could have threatened the season if that had happened. So thankfully that didn't happen. But I think what you're seeing is these guys threatened to not play, and the NFL caved and continued to move it until there were enough guys healthy. They could put some semblance of a ball club out there.
Well, they held out long enough so we could play our J.K. Dobbins. So wheels up.
Yeah.
I guess 2 more people just tested positive, but they said that they were people that were already in the danger zone or something. And so it's not going to change anything. It's just really obvious that they're not going to cancel any games no matter what. So I don't think it's preferential treatment. The Broncos had 1 case or maybe 2, and they broke some protocols. So
did the Ravens.
But there's like a full blown outbreak. They had with staff and all that. They had like over 20 people.
What do you think the Broncos would have been if they hadn't curtailed it and sat their whole quarterback room down?
Well, that's you got to quarantine. I mean, they did that. I don't know. I don't know.
Being that they were eligible, they came out on Monday and said that all the Broncos players, quarterbacks, could return to the facility. What would it have hurt to push that game one day?
I agree with that.
Monday to Monday, so that they didn't have a practice squad wide receiver playing quarterback.
Oh, yeah. God, that was ugly too. I don't know, man. I'm just glad we're playing football. And I think the NFL said in the beginning, before the season started that, they're going to try and make this fair, but it might not be fair. I guess I don't care as long as they play the games. I really
and there's a lot of people that share your sentiment. I don't just play the games.
Just play the games
at whatever cost. And I guess I'm that way too. What I took from this is that they're just going to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no stopping it, dude. And like I said,
they're making it up as they go.
Yeah.
Were we expecting anything else, though? I mean, they've been reactionary the whole time. I don't know. It's a business. It's money. They're going to play the games. They're going to, try and execute a semblance of player safety, but it's really not about player safety. It's about the dollar. We know that.
Not at all.
And I'm being selfish because I want all the games to play, so I don't have to worry about alternate players or whatever. In my league of record, there's no alternate players, and I put Claypool in there. And I'm hoping to God he plays because I need him to have a good game. So I risked it. And they were all surprised in the chat. They said, wow, Paulie's risking it because they are not allowing alternates like a lot of leagues are. So, yeah, I'm being selfish. I just want the games to play. But it's weird, Wednesday. Is there a Thursday game?
No, there isn't.
No.
So what happened to that?
It was moved to Monday because it involved the Ravens. It was the Ravens and the Cowboys.
And then didn't a Monday game already get moved to Tuesday next week?
No, it's a Monday triple header. There's 3 games on Monday. Yeah.
Wow, man!
But they couldn't move the Bronco game though.
I might call in sick.
Well,
that's
how could you not move that Bronco? Like, seriously, like you want to put out a product that people are going to watch, and you allow that to happen. One of the most the kid. Okay, this kid got ugly. He got thrown into the fire, so you can't really whatever. This poor guy, but 1 for 9. Holy fucking woof, dude!
They obviously didn't want to get him out there at all because they tried to do the Wildcat, and I'm convinced that they would have ran that Wildcat the whole game if they could have. But I think even on that first series, they got to the point where they needed a quarterback out there, and that poor kid. You can just see him on the sidelines, by the warming thing and with his jacket on, and just kind of sitting there like. I mean, didn't they want their trainer to be their quarterback or something? They've got some guy on the staff.
Oh, I heard that.
You didn't see those reports?
I didn't. He was a quarterback in college. And...
They were pushing for this guy on their staff.
God.
They really were pushing for it, and
this is unnecessary roughness.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like you said, there was a game played with no quarterbacks, and Jameis Winston's just looking on like, what's going on?
Yeah,
somebody get Scott Bakula on the phone.
2020, baby. 2020.
Keanu Reeves quarterback would have been better for Denver on Sunday? Johnny Utah or what's his name from the Replacements?
Oh, definitely Johnny Utah.
Oh, come on, dude.
Shane Falco. Shane Falco.
No, dude, give me Falco.
Give me Utah. Give me Utah.
No, I'm going
Utah
Falco,
had
dude.
some stones.
I'm going to go Falco, dude. He just wins games.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right, we're going to move the chains here a little bit. Speaking of winning games, the Eagles are not winning games. And I could probably sit here and tell you what's wrong with Carson Wentz. I don't know what's wrong with the Eagles. This organization has gone completely backwards since they won the Super Bowl. I've taken a good look at Carson Wentz. You guys know how I feel about Carson Wentz. I feel like he's trying to do too much. His footwork is atrocious. He has no time in the pocket. Travis Kelce is the only member of his line that hasn't missed significant time at some point, and it really shows. He's trying to make plays that aren't there. It's just a dumpster fire. It's a complete dumpster fire. What are you guys seeing? Do you think Wentz is just some terrible quarterback all of a sudden, or? I mean, they're talking about benching him for Jalen Hurts. I can't even believe Jalen Hurts is on this team.
I think this is a product of just bad coaching. It's bad coaching. It's bad upper management. Wentz is not a bad quarterback. He's shown that he can handle he can handle being back there. It's just, they're doing awful play calling. I mean, Miles Sanders had 6 carries against Seattle. Why? They
weren't getting blown out.
No. And then he was their leading rusher with 6 carries. Carson Wentz was the second with 5. attempts. Like, really? And then, you've got talent out there. You've got Rager, you've got Fulgham, you got Gada.
Yeah,
And-
but here's the thing with Rager. They're calling these, like you said, coaching. They're calling these 5 and 7 step drops and these long developing routes like they have the offensive line to hold up to this stuff, and they don't.
They don't.
It's what the Browns were doing with Baker last year.
Yes.
Remember we talked about it? There needs to be short 2 and 3 step drops. There needs to be quicker route concepts. You need to abandon those long downfield concepts when your line. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. Jason Peters is grading out as one of the worst offensive linemen in the league. And when they snap the ball, you could see that line just getting pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
And before he gets set, he has defenders on either side of him.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of Carson Wentz, but I truly believe that this is not the situation in which to judge him.
I completely agree.
The other thing is, and verified Twitter's going nuts over the fact that Travis Fulgham did not get run last week. Their base formation was Alshon, Rager, Greg Ward, Richard Rodgers, and Goddard.
Why?
And Fulgham should have been out there over
Jeffrey,
Alshon, and or Greg Ward, because he can play the slot a little bit too. And it's funny, the first snap that they put him in there, he caught the ball, almost got him a first down. And everything else you said, Miles Sanders not getting the run. I mean,
yeah.
Now you said Jalen Hurts shouldn't be on the team anymore. I don't know what you meant by that.
I mean, they shouldn't have drafted him.
Oh,
yeah, they should have drafted somebody who could actually help them win football games,
like an offensive lineman.
Yeah, that would have worked. Yeah,
an offensive lineman.
It's horrible to watch. They're one of the most painful teams, if not the most painful team to watch right now.
Really, the Eagles owe the Packers like a fruit basket or something. Because them drafting Love in the first round is the only thing that kept the hounds at bay of the media circus that would have been Hurts in round 2. Yeah, you draft a project quarterback, not even a sure thing. You draft a project when your supposed window is open and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, and you just paid a franchise quarterback in the summer of 2019. What are you doing? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. As far as the on the field stuff, easy yards are non-existent for this team. They're 31st in yards after the catch, 31st in yards per attempt off play action, and they're one of the most heavily play action teams in the league. His favorite target is 30 years old and is averaging 7.4 yards per catch. I'm talking, of course, about Zach Ertz, and he's not even out there. But yeah, man, Winston became all these questions about could he be the guy and his leadership and was it Nick Foles' team or was it Carson Wentz's team? And he finally got Nick Foles out of town, only to see them draft Hurts.
Yep.
They have done nothing to support this kid since they give him all that money. I mean, we're talking about someone who would have been the league MVP had he not got hurt against the Rams.
Yep.
He was going to be the league MVP. So this is not someone who can't play. I just don't get it.
I want to circle back to Fulgham real quick.
Sure.
Because I was banging the drum for him, a week before everybody else was, and he's obviously had 3 off weeks. For you dynasty people out there, I would not be, panic selling. I'm actually going to float some offers out here before the trade deadline ends. The way I see it is, they've got their alpha in Rager. That's going to be their future. They've got so many holes that I don't see them drafting another, big time wide receiver in next year's class. They probably, they still might, but all it's going to take is an injury to Alshon. And if that doesn't happen, it's going to take somebody to wake up and realize that he needs to play over Alshon. And if that doesn't happen, then I think in 2021, he's going to be the wide receiver 2 on that team. So for now, he's not playable at all. but I wouldn't say that he's dead because I saw something in that kid. I think he can be good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm also going to float some offers for Fulgham. He may not help you down the stretch this year, but
You should be able to get him for a late third right now. You should be able to just float a late third out there and get him.
yeah, I
That's the
don't
way I
see
see
why
it.
not. I don't see why not. I think you can do that easily, pretty easily.
Okay.
Okay. We'll move the chains a little bit. I wanted to float this by you guys, and I don't know. I don't know how closely you guys are following this, but or if you've heard that COVID is a pretty big deal this year. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell me more.
Because of COVID, the cap. Jesus Christ! Sorry, I'm trying to watch the Duke game and record a podcast at the same time. The cap is going to most assuredly go down next year because of the loss of revenue. It'll be only the first time since 2011 that the cap has gone down. And I was doing some work on this, and so the new collective bargaining agreement has made it so that teams can only use the cap, can only use the franchise tag one time in the future. So you can't use you can't tag someone and then
Oh, I didn't know that.
and then exclusive rights tag someone else. You can only use one tag.
Oh.
So, and for those of you who don't know, the franchise tag is the average of the top 5 of the position. So, like, say Dak Prescott, for example, who takes up so much a percentage of his team's cap because he's tagged and he's at the top 5, whatever the top 5 is. He's going to make that, I think, whatever it was this year, $35 million for Dak. So with the cap going down and salaries on the rise, the tag will count for an even greater percentage of the team's overall cap, and it will make it harder for teams to use the tag. So say like someone like Dak Prescott next year who's been tagged, salaries go up and the cap goes down. It's going to be even harder for teams like Dallas to turn around and reuse the tag on him, especially if they have someone else they're going to want to tag.
I like that. Yeah.
I never even thought about that, folks. This is why you listen to our podcast. Term always says this about me and Beezy, but he comes up with some stuff too. This is dissecting the cap and thinking about the future in a way that I don't know about you guys, but I haven't thought about that percentage of the cap. You got the money moving one way and the cap moving the other way. That is pretty big. Do you think that would preclude the Cowboys from franchise tagging Dak again?
Well, that's where I was going. So we could have seen. Listen, if I were Jerry Jones, I would do whatever it took. You know, I've said this on this podcast already. I'd have already offered Dak a contract. He said he didn't want to negotiate during the year. Well, his year's over. That's exactly what I'd tell him. Your year's over, so let's get this done. It may keep them from tagging him again, and if it does, man, if I'm Dak Prescott and I can get to free agency, I'm not coming back to Dallas.
No, not after this year, dude. Get out of here.
I'm not coming back to Dallas. Why would you go back there?
You would because of Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott. That's got to give any quarterback a nice, at least half a chub.
Sure, but at the same time, it's like this kid's going to be looking for the money. So if Jones is not going to pony up for him, not going to pay him like the top 3 or 4 quarterback that he is, why wouldn't you go take another position on a team that's potentially rebuilding or already has pieces in place for a potential run that they're just looking for that upgraded quarterback to make it happen? Like, God, I don't even know. Brain fart.
You talking about teams that need quarterbacks?
Yes.
There's no number of teams. You could the Jets need a quarterback. The 49ers
Yeah.
need a quarterback.
Well, there you go. 49ers.
Yeah, there's several teams out there that you could say need a quarterback. I mean, quarterback play has been pretty atrocious this year on the whole.
Especially here the last couple weeks
Bad.
with guys like Russell Wilson taking a step back, and Kyler Murray hasn't been doing as well.
Kyler Murray's hurt.
Yes.
Got shoulders.
So is Matt Stafford, and he's struggling a little bit. The 49ers, to me, would be the most interesting landing spot because just the whole 49ers Cowboys rivalry from back in my day, the 80s and 90s.
Back in my day, brother, we could pay him back for taking Deion Sanders from us.
Right. Yeah. And just the weapons there with Debo and Ayuk and Kittle. That would be super exciting to me.
Shanahan would have a field day with that
but
kid.
What's Garoppolo's contract like?
They can pretty easily get out from underneath Garoppolo after this year.
Interesting. Did you see the report that Garoppolo and Kittle might be ready to play the last 2 weeks?
Yes, and a lot of that's going to depend on whether or not we're in playoff contention.
Right. Which right now you're on the outside kind of looking in, but you're still in a position to get there. Obviously, they're not rolling them out if you guys are eliminated.
Yeah, we got some people back healthy this past week. One of those guys you mentioned, Debo Samuel. I'm glad you mentioned him because I wanted to bring him up. Debo Samuel, we talked about this earlier, Paulie, when you said you didn't have any of Debo Samuel, and you noted that it was a low volume passing attack, and he really just didn't do it for you. But this is a kid, man. 83 of his 133 yards Sunday occurred after contact. That is the most by a wide receiver this season. He's only played 5 games, folks.
Yep.
His ADOT is like -2.6.
I got a better stat for you than that. The last 3 games, he has 238 receiving yards on negative 41 air yards.
That's just the biggest outlier ever, but he's a beast. He's like a running back once he gets the ball. Yeah, I whiffed on that because I do tend to fade guys from low passing attacks. It kept me away from guys like Debo and Hollywood Brown, and one of them was a big mistake and one of them wasn't. But yeah, I love watching that kid play. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Ayuk gets out there, because I've already mentioned that I think Ayuk is a little Debo, prototype. Really,
he has out targeted Ayuk in the 2 games that they played with each other.
Oh, obviously, yes, he's still the alpha. I'm just wondering if Ayuk would get enough run to maintain relevance. I hope.
Who knows? Is Kittle playing? Because if Kittle's playing, my answer is no. But if Kittle's still out, probably, yeah, they probably throw in enough for both those guys to stay relevant.
Right. And you got Sherman back this week, too, and he played really well.
He had an interception. One more stat on Debo. He has the most forced missed tackles among wide receivers since the start of the 2019 season, and he's only played in 20 of 27 games.
Beast, dude.
Beast. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Freaking
a beast. The 49ers are, I don't know whether I want them to make a run for the playoffs or just get a high draft pick. I'm
in the same boat with my Colts, baby.
Your Colts are looking every bit like the division champion that I pegged them to be at the beginning of the season.
Not last week, they didn't.
Well, not last week, but
the problem is that they don't have tiebreakers. They've already lost their tiebreaker against the Browns, the Ravens, the Titans. They're going to probably lose it against Houston this week.
They still have Houston twice.
Yeah, that's true.
Two out of the next 3 weeks. So
that's true. They play the Steelers coming up. They're Jekyll and Hyde, man. My team's Jekyll and Hyde.
I think they're going to beat Houston twice. I think they're going to beat Houston twice, especially with Fuller out now.
No way. No way they beat them twice.
You heard it here first, folks.
No way. You play the nickel against Derrick Henry. They started off the game in nickel coverage against Derrick Henry.
How'd that work out?
It didn't work out very well. I don't know whoever's decided to do that. You guys know I like to do those Twitter posts sometimes where like the hot gals say,
"Oh yeah,
tell me what you want."
Tell me what you want.
And there was one this week where she was on the bed, kind of silhouette in her panties, whatever. Tell me what you want. And my retweet was, I want to know whose idea it was to play the nickel against Derrick Henry.
So he had
it was bad.
He had his third game of his career where he rushed for over 175 yards and scored 3 touchdowns.
Monster, dude.
He was the if you had him and Tyreek Hill in your DraftKings lineups, you crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone else was almost window dressing.
It was those 2 players. I mean, and I've got enough of those guys. I won most of my games this week because I had one or the other. And a lot of Antonio Gibson, too.
I would say Antonio Gibson was my guy.
Boy, talk about a beast on Thanksgiving. It really, I tell you what, I made a trade 3 weeks ago in a league that I took over an orphan and I'm rebuilding, and I traded Kyler Murray for Tua, Antonio Gibson, a 2021 first and a 2021 second.
That's a
good Lord
trade.
Good Lord.
If Tua can become even just a mid-range QB2, that's a smash trade.
Yep.
Yeah. I say that because that's my only share of Antonio Gibson, the only one I have.
He's fantastic. Michelle Mazdak from Ball Blast said, I will never discount somebody due to low volume like that again. I whiffed hard. And my comment was, you probably won't ever have to. I can't imagine a situation ever again where there's going to be a guy that profiles that well. And like I said in one of our first combat,
and couldn't get on the field for Memphis.
Yeah.
One of our first podcasts said that it was such a rare combination of size, athleticism, and speed that I have seen in such a long time that he got 33 touches. That's never going to happen again. So I can appreciate that she came out and said, hey, I was wrong and my process was wrong here, but you don't have to. There's a lot of people that faded him because of that, and don't worry about it. It's never going to happen again. That's such a big outlier.
I faded him.
I know, but it'll never happen again. We'll never have a guy that's that good that got that low of volume in college.
Well, this tends to happen to me. I don't know if this happens to you, Beezy. This happened to me, and it happened to me Thanksgiving Day for the whole world to see. It seemed like I was playing against Antonio Gibson in every league that I was in, and it was a completely helpless feeling sitting there watching this kid. You're thinking, man, throw it to somebody else. I mean, just fucking give it. Hey, somebody's got a handoff here besides this kid. And they just kept giving him the ball, and he just kept running people over. It was a completely helpless feeling. It really sucked. And what made it worse was I was playing against him in my league of record, and then the guy who had him also had Mahomes and Tyreek Hill.
Woof.
Yeah. No, so I did not win.
I was going up against, so in my big money league that I'm in with my buddies, it was basically the 2 number 1 seeds, me and this other kid that were going at it for the whole thing, and to take the whole that one number 1 playoff spot, and he had Will Fuller. So Will Fuller drops a 40 dime on me, and I'm just like, shit. I'm like, that's not good. Well, then Antonio Gibson says, hold my fucking beer.
Mm-hmm.
And just goes ham and
drops his own 40 burger.
You love to see it. I love that he got a national stage and everybody was able to see him. And McLaurin had a good game. I think 9 for 97.
I had Terry there. Yep.
Our guy that we talk about a bunch. Since you just brought up Will Fuller, we should probably talk about his snafu.
Will Woofer.
Snafu. Is that the wolf of the week?
It's the wolf of the week, dude. Disgusting. Gross.
Wolf.
He used the classic, I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted. That's just a classic move right there to deflect.
Whatever he was taking, man, those hamstrings stayed intact with whatever that was.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but somebody said that substance should be mandatory. Whatever the hell it is, it's some go juice.
It's Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue.
Gorilla Glue.
We're just going to glue these hamstrings right here, buddy.
It's too bad because I've never, ever advocated for him, and I advocated for him this summer and said that he was in a great spot to become the number one, and if he would stay healthy, he would be great. And I picked him up in a couple startup leagues, and I traded for him a couple times. As you know, the one trade I did with Travis Fulgham, I traded him for Will Fuller straight up, and was just living great. Like, man, I'm on him. The good year. Boom. He hasn't missed any time. And then, he's done. It really sucks.
Yeah, I had him in quite a few spots. I was like you. We did so many startups because of COVID. This was the one year I thought, he could outlive his ADP, outproduce his ADP.
And he was.
And he was doing it. And I have 3 teams headed for a number 1 seed. All 3 of those teams had Will Fuller.
I mean, what was his ADP in the low 30s?
Yeah.
And
something like that?
It was low. It was low, man.
And he's been a top 10? Hasn't missed a game?
Yeah, he's been easily top 10. I thought he missed one game.
I think he left a game. But then played the next week. So technically, I don't think he's missed a start, but I think he had one dud, and it was a hamstring, believe it or not. Shocker. But that sucks. I mean, was the violation like has he had one before? Because it seems to me like PEDs is usually 2 or 3 or 4 games, and he got 6.
He got 6, which means he's going to miss the first game for his new team next year because he's an unrestricted free agent.
Right.
Ooh.
So, but why was it 6? Was this like his 3rd violation or something?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever heard of him getting one before, but it could have been something that got missed back when.
Yeah, but I'm not crazy, right? Doesn't it seem like PEDs is usually 2 to 4?
Maybe that PED was some good shit.
I haven't seen 6 in a while. I was kind of surprised that he got that. Yeah, that's crazy. His new team is going to miss him the first game. Wow. That's nuts.
And with Randall Cobb on injured reserve, wheels up on Brandon Cooks, who is already an every week starter. This guy, he's pretty much all they got. I guess they got Kiki, who was beginning to be a healthy scratch every week under Bill O'Brien. So maybe he can get out there and earn some playing time. And then
he does well against cover 2, so he would be a sneaky play this week. I mentioned him last week on our podcast because Cobb went down. I went out and picked him up everywhere. He's got a very low floor, high ceiling situation. It's going to be a definition of boom or bust, but their tight ends are all over the place. They got Cooks. Drawing coverage, Kiki could sneak away with a decent game this week. I like him in DFS, and I like him if you're in a really deep league and you've got to have a Hail Mary play. I don't think it's that bad of a play.
You guys know I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about Deshaun Watson's pretty tough playoff schedule. This only makes it worse.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it goes. We'll see if we'll give him the benefit of the doubt this week, but he may slide back into, depending on how he does, he may slide back into a matchup dependent play for me, not in every week plug and play.
No.
I think he will be fine. So we'll see. I think he'll be fine.
Speaking of quarterbacks, like we said, it was a pretty atrocious week. Derek Carr.
Possibly one of the worst game plans I've seen in 3 years. I don't know how much of the game you saw. Did you see that game, BZ?
No, I didn't. I was working.
Atlanta's defense swelled up huge, and the Raiders' offensive game plan was just weak vanilla sauce. It was so predictable. Josh Jacobs got hurt and ended up, leaving after like 7 carries for 4 yards. But they needed to get exotic with their concepts, and they didn't. They went really vanilla, and it looked horrible. God, that team looked horrible.
I'm glad you mentioned Josh Jacobs, because when I see him, I'm starting to see another talented running back that played under John Gruden, who was worn out fairly quickly, and that's Cadillac Williams. Is John Gruden unnecessarily harsh? Is his scheme unnecessarily harsh? Does he lean on his one back too much? Because it seems like his system just grinds on running backs. And it seems like Jacobs is really looking like he's feeling the grind of the season already.
Well, the last 3 games prior to this one, they have played Devontae Booker 1 out of every 3 series to get Jacobs some rest.
Maybe they realize it.
He just has a very punishing play style. He lowers his shoulder. He lowers the boom. He puts the hammer down. That kind of play style can lend itself to injuries. I don't think he's worn out. I hope you're not basing it just on this game, because this game was atrocious. Those 7 carries that he had. Just to let you guys know, 2-on-1 just hopped in the chat, and Angie loves Falcons. Is loving that we're talking about her Falcons.
Yeah,
she's in my Scott Fishbowl league.
2-on-1 is saying that he's been using Booker a bunch. Richard's still there on 3rd downs. Early in the season, Jacobs was on a pitch count.
Yeah, I think they realized that he can't be a 25, 30 touch guy.
Yep.
He wasn't that in college.
No, I think the sweet spot's about 20 touches, 18 to 20 touches.
Yeah.
I'm still in on Jacobs if anybody wants to float offers my way. I'm fine with him. Much rather have him than Miles Sanders. You want to talk about somebody that's not used? Jesus.
Hey, just dropping something in real fast. Don't know if you guys heard today. Florida judge has scheduled a trial in the civil case against Antonio Brown for December 6, 2021. So he's going to be fined for the rest of this year, and he's a free agent next year. So
no one will sign him.
Yeah, we'll see.
Now, you said he's going to be fined, but the NFL did say specifically that if there was new evidence that he could be prone to further suspension. Not if he was convicted, but if there was new evidence.
Right.
So we'll have to see what the evidentiary, results are in discovery. From what I know from watching Law and Order, that's what they call discovery. When the one side kind of shows the other side what their evidence is. So I don't know when discovery starts. That could be the summer.
Shit.
He could start next season with some suspension.
He could.
He could be suspended.
Well, but I meant to say he was fine this year.
No, and you did say that. You said that.
I tell you who's not fine. Tampa Bay.
No.
Oh
He
God,
may
dude.
be fine, but Tampa Bay's not fine. I think Tyreek Hill just scored again.
Yep.
He leads the league in receiving yards. Do you know who's second?
Justin Jefferson?
No.
Mike Evans.
Travis Kelsey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Travis Kelsey. If you have Travis Kelsey at your tight end position, you have such an advantage over everyone else in your league. That like it's ridiculous. He is literally like having a number one wide receiver in your tight end spot every week.
Especially if you're like in tight end premium, he's like a top 5 player overall.
Overall.
You've got a rare situation right now where you've got the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 wide receiver, and the number 1 tight end in the league. And also, really, you could argue that those guys are all the number 1s in Dynasty as well. I was laughed off of the Twitter sphere 2 years ago when I suggested that Tyreek Hill should be in the number 1 overall Dynasty wide receiver discussion. Laughed off the pages, folks. And now he's in everybody's top 3, a lot of people's top 2. A lot of people just moved him to number 1. He's on a whole nother level. It's ridiculous. And they're getting them the ball in different ways. It's not just deep balls. They're getting him the ball.
He scored on a wheel route where he was matched up on a linebacker Sunday, and it's like
that poor man.
How in the hell do you manage to like Andy Reid is a genius play caller. Yeah. How he managed to get Tyreek Hill on a linebacker, I'll never know. But yeah, I mean I think it's a combination of things. Obviously, the player is uber talented. The system fits perfectly. The quarterback, everything, the play calling, it all meshes. They're just red hot right now, and I can't wait to watch them lose in the playoffs. It's going to be so fun.
No, we'll see. You're right. The play calling is amazing. It's designed to create mismatches. It's real easy to get mismatches against those guys that we've mentioned, and Mahomes recognizes it right away. He sees the mismatch, and he will exploit it every single time.
And Andy Reid is he's such a genius. Like if you sit back and you play man against these guys and you turn your back, he's just going to turn around and hand the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's just going to run the ball. If you want him to run the ball, he'll run the ball. I mean, if you're going to play zone and you're going to take that away, well, then we'll just pick you apart. I mean, he may be the best coach in the league right now. All due respect to Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Andrew Mackins just hopped in the chat and brought up a good point. You know, he said it was probably never right to put Kittle ahead of Kelsey in dynasty rankings because Mahomes is so much better than Jimmy G.
I mean, we talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
We talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Even with the age thing, the 5-year disparity in their age, and I will tell you, I hate to say this because this is like when Paulie comes on and says, "These are my sleepers," and then we all go out and pick up his sleepers before he can get them on his team. This is like I told Chalk this. I am getting out of the George Kittle business. I love George Kittle. I love that he plays for the 49ers and how tough he is and tenacious and all that stuff. Insert your own superlative. As far as a fantasy player, he does not play enough games for me. Your best availability is availability, and he just doesn't seem to have it. He's always hurt. He's got these nagging injuries. I can't imagine his value, depending upon what they do with the quarterback and a myriad of other things. Can't imagine his value goes any higher than it is right now.
Even with him not on the field?
Even with him not on the field. If you plug him into these trade calculators and things like that, people still think an awful lot of George Kittle, and his value is still sky high. He still commands, and especially in tight end premiums, he still commands a premium price. And I'm just getting out of that business while I can. And you guys saw me make a couple of George Kittle trades in the past week.
Yeah, it kind of blew me away.
Yeah,
I
you guys.
mean, you're getting good value for him. I would say overall, I would wait till he's healthy and until hopefully they get a better quarterback. And I think that his value would be higher at that point. But
we'll see. The quarterback isn't keeping him off the field.
Right.
So
I get it.
Yeah, I was in the Kittle. I was on the Kittle challenging for the number one position earlier this year in the summer. I can admit that I was wrong. It's Travis Kelce, and it's not particularly close. I mean, it's just not.
What do you think, Beezy?
I agree. I was just gonna say last year? I had this is my big money league that I'm in now, where I just took the first overall spot. I have the Mahomes and Kelce stack, and last year I traded Darwin Thompson and 2 second-round picks for Travis Kelce.
And a
4th rounder.
Shut up.
You remember when that Darwin hype was going all crazy, like right near the end of the summer, and we were doing the drafts? Right then and there, the kid sends me, he's like, I know you want Travis Kelce and get that stack. I was like, of course I do. And I had Darwin Thompson I had picked up, and I said, I'll give you Darwin. He's like, I want Darwin. I said, okay. He's like, just give me 2 seconds. We're Gucci. I said, Yeah, that I know that look is just exactly what it was, man. It was that gift, that gift from Rounders where it was one of those.
That's almost like getting Antonio Gibson for Tariq Cohen and a third.
Did you
that one?
Did you give this kid a reach around?
No, I probably should have.
Probably should have.
And you know what the best part of that was the entire time he was talking to me, I just kept saying, yeah, Kelsey's older. And,
oh, God.
I kept playing that game. So I was able to get out of the first rounder and get into 2 seconds.
Sell job.
Yep. It was great. And now that stack is just, if you have that stack, man, you just win every single week. It's crazy.
That's
no stopping it.
Cool. You should feel ashamed of yourself.
I don't, though. Not,
really, I don't.
No, not in this league, because they're a bunch of pricks, and they're all people that I know, like personally. I see them all the time, so it's this is fun for me. Like that was just I still love that. Like when you get to go sit down next year at the draft, and you can bring that up every single year and just say, "Hey, remember when you traded me Darwin Thompson and 2 seconds for Travis Kelce, you dipshit?" It's just the look on his eyes. It's great. It's all worth it.
Paulie, who did you do your trade with?
Which one?
The Gibson trade you just mentioned.
I'm not going to name his name because he's a big name on Twitter. I'm not going to name names, but I did leave his name in the screenshot. I did a little feed that said, show me where you got Gibson, and I put a bunch of screenshots of in my leagues where people got him and where I got him. He was mostly a late 2nd rounder, early 3rd rounder in rookie drafts. But I love this feature on Sleeper where you can click history, and if you go to a player and click history, you could see where he was drafted, when, how many times he's been traded. But I did get him this year before Cohen got hurt. I got him for Cohen and a third. I'm not going to name his name. I don't.
You can name his name, or I'll name his name, because when I find it, I'll name his name.
I don't want to embarrass him.
You had a trade way back when too. This is one of our very first podcasts, and I woofed the shit out of you. Remember this? Remember these motherfuckers?
Yeah, with Jax Falcone.
That was the Antonio Gibson trade, and
Term says the jury's still out on that trade. I traded a first for Gibson and a 2nd, so just a 1-round move back. See, I'll do that, man. Please give me that trade all day long.
How the times have changed.
Jax is in the chat right now.
Yeah, I was hoping he was.
He's probably still happy to have his 1st rounder, but still, You guys woofed me for that trade, and obviously now I
Now
overpaid then. But Michael Liu talks about this all the time. I've talked about it on the podcast a bunch. There's, people say, "Oh, you're buying too high on a player," but if the player is still on the rise, later on, people won't say, "Oh, you overpaid for him." At the time, I overpaid for him, but I felt like he was on the rise. Today, no one would say that Gibson in a second for a first is a bad trade.
Nope.
But at the time, you guys looked at
say it.
Jax just said in the chat he's worth more than that now. So yeah, his value's on the rise. Some players are going to continue to rise. Is McLaurin going to continue to rise? Yeah, possibly.
I was going to ask
T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson. They're going to keep rising.
I was going to ask you this earlier, Paulie, when we were talking about Dak Prescott, but we got off of it. To your players can exist in the same plane thing. Is Dak Prescott? Is he in the same plane? Is he a buyer? Is he a buy and a sell?
Yeah, he's a hold, a buy, and a sell all at the same time, depending on your situation. Absolutely.
See, because to me, right now, this is another thing. You're talking about Kittle. He's hurt, and I'm saying his value is probably as high as it might ever be. I feel that way about Dak because Dak played those first 4 games or 5 games or whatever it was with the most historically bad defense ever. And
throwing 65 times a game.
Yeah, and it was like the perfect storm. His value right now is just so high that if you can get a decent quarterback in return and a bunch, I'm all about selling him. And, I'm all about buying him too if you can get him for a decent price. I think he exists in the same plane, but I don't think his value, even with him hurt right now, I don't think his value could get any higher.
That's possible.
All right, Gibson. Oh, Allen Robinson obviously got a boost this past week with Mitchell Trubisky. He got 13 targets. He scored twice.
So did David Montgomery.
I was waiting for that.
David Montgomery was handicapped by the worst coach in pro football.
Yeah.
AKA Matt Nagy. He goes 57 yards on it. What was it? The first carry of the game?
First carry of the game, dude.
First carry of the game. He goes 57 yards against the Packers' notoriously soft as cheese defense. And then inexplicably, they go away from the running game.
Yes. Pretty fucking wild, man. That explains everything in a nutshell.
The three of us have been clamoring for Trubisky. We finally get Trubisky. One of the main reasons we've been clamoring for Trubisky is the fact that he can make plays with his feet. They didn't do any designed plays or anything like that for Trubisky to use his legs.
Not even to roll out of the pocket and have the threat.
They had an entire week to prepare for the Packers, and they looked like a monkey fucking a football out there. It was completely ridiculous. I don't know how this team, I don't know how this coaching staff survives. I don't know how this general manager survives. I think the Lions did the right thing by getting rid of Matt Patricia. There's another piece of news we haven't even talked about yet. Thank God for DeAndre Swift owners out there that Matt Patricia has finally been fired. Thank God for Matthew Stafford owners out there that Matt Patricia has finally been fired. I think they did the absolute right thing by firing him now and getting a jump on their division rival, who is almost certainly going to be looking for a head coach this offseason. If they aren't, I mean, I just can't imagine what Bears fans would be thinking if they're not looking for another coach. Because there are plenty of assistant coaches out there who deserve head coaching jobs. And Matt Nagy is most assuredly not one of them.
I agree. Yeah. David Montgomery, 11 carries, 103 yards, 6 targets, 5 catches, 40 yards, and a tutty.
6 targets.
He had 11 carries for 100 yards.
Yeah, 11 carries for
1 for 57 on the first carry of the game.
Yep.
Come on, man. And they only give him 10 more carries after that.
That's it.
What are you doing?
I don't know what they were doing. It's so frustrating. As a Monty guy, I feel like he's just in a situation that the coaching, the play calling has always been on the offensive line too, but the coaching and play calling has always been one of the biggest issues. It always has been. It's always going to be. Get rid of Nagy, see what happens.
I'll tell you another backfield that is like this, and it's hard to argue because they're winning games. They're 8-3, and that's Buffalo. Zach Moss looked really good again Sunday, and so did Singletary, by the way.
11 carries for 85 yards for Singletary.
Yeah, Moss was 6.6 yards per carry. I will say Moss has gotten double-digit carries one time all year, and in that game he went for over 80 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
I just don't think they run the football enough in Buffalo.
No.
But they're winning, so
I will go back to the beginning of the year where I said neither one of these guys would be fantasy relevant.
20 touches between them two. Josh Allen had 9.
I don't know, not fantasy relevant, but they're definitely.
Moss had one good game where he scored a couple times.
They eat into each other's workloads for sure.
Yep.
Much. And speaking of which, free Aaron Jones. What's in the water over there that every once in a while they just decide they're not going to use this guy? The last 2 weeks.
So I think his injury was probably more significant than they let on.
Really? Yeah.
And since his injury, you've seen his usage kind of trend downwards, and I think that might be a reason why. But I'm glad you brought up Aaron Jones. I want to bring up his teammate Devontae Adams is a freak.
Oh, dude.
This kid has 74 receptions for 900 yards and 11 touchdowns. He's only played 9 games.
That's
insane.
Insane.
He had a couple unfortunate drops this week, which happens. He would have had a monster stat line. He had 3 big drops that I'm not holding against him. I'm not holding against him. I'm just
he's
just
carrying
pointing
the
it out.
entire Packers passing offense.
But yeah, he's a beast. He's still my dynasty wide receiver 1, even over Tyreek. Absolutely.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
Lazard came back though too. Lazard 6 targets, 4 catches, 23 and a tutty.
Yep. They're going to go back to Lazard. MVS is way too unpredictable with his drops. So Lazard's the number 2. Absolutely. And Tanyan had a big game.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah. Where the hell did that come from?
Ask the Bears defense. I mean, I was closer to him than anybody that was wearing a Bears uniform on that touchdown he caught. It was completely ridiculous.
Shout out to Travis that just jumped in our chat from TNFF Network. What's up, my Canadian friend?
What's up, Trav?
Yeah, buddy.
Chris Carson returned Sunday. He played just 37% of the snaps, but he looked like his old mini beast mode self on that 16-yard touchdown. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I tweeted out mini beast mode.
Did you tweet out mini beast mode?
Yeah.
I didn't see that, so that's pretty awesome. Carlos Hyde played 62% of the snaps. We said Hyde might remain a thing moving forward. I don't think he's going to be that much of a thing. I think this was more of a we're just easing Carson back in kind of deal. I think wheels up on Chris Carson moving forward. I got to mention Jeremy Chin. We don't talk about much defense, but he made NFL history Sunday. Became the first player ever to return a fumble for a touchdown, to score a defensive touchdown on 2 consecutive plays back to back like that. The whole Carolina organization is trending in the right direction. We lambasted them pretty good this offseason, mainly me. I didn't think this was an organization that was headed in the right direction, but the Joe Brady, Matt Rule, and all those guys, they just and they went pretty heavy on defense this draft. Jeremy Chin's a great player, and they're all wheels up on that whole franchise.
Since we're talking about Carolina, DJ Moore dodged a bullet.
Yeah, he did.
Big time.
Our doc, Adam, and some of the other fantasy docs out there were worried about an Achilles. And MRIs are negative. It's not an Achilles. I think he's going to miss the rest of the season, but at least he didn't have a major injury.
For what it's worth, Matt Rule said that he may play after the bye this week.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not the rest of the season. My
Well,
bad.
that may be coach speak. It's worth noting. And I will say, if you want to follow our doc, you can follow him at the Real Adam H. He's excellent. He was one of the first ones to rebuff the Achilles, erroneous Achilles reports and say, wait a minute, guys, this might not be an Achilles. And he was absolutely 100%.
He was.
correct.
I mean, we're really lucky to have him. And
absolutely.
He's been on the right side of a lot of these questionable injuries almost every single time.
Yep.
Almost every single time, if not every single time, pointing us in the right direction on the amount of time that might be missed, the actual injury. And like you said, with some of the industry going one way, he's not afraid to stick it out there and say, I don't see it. I don't see the Achilles here because he put some weight on this foot after he came down and this and that. Wouldn't have been able to put weight on it. What it boils down to is there's a very accurate on-field test for an Achilles injury where they just kind of squeeze a part of the calf. And so I think they knew right away. But yeah, he was all over that. I thought I think he'll miss more time than that. Like you said, it's coach speak. But the couple games that he misses wheels up on Robbie Anderson big time.
Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel. You know, I love that kid.
Yep. They continue to look for ways to get him the football. That whole organization is just in a good spot. It'll be real interesting to see if Joe Brady is there next year because I have a feeling he's going to get some head coaching offers this off season.
Yeah.
We got just a few minutes here. This is a player I think we probably should talk about. Since we mentioned the Cowboys, we've mentioned backfields. How do you guys feel about Ezekiel Elliott? He's a pretty polarizing figure in the dynasty community right now. Still just 25 years old. Here's a thing that I haven't heard mentioned. That I sort of thought about today. He had COVID earlier this year.
He sure did.
COVID affects everyone differently. I mean, it ranges from death to I didn't even have any symptoms. I was asymptomatic. We don't know how COVID has affected Ezekiel Elliott, or even if it had an effect. I'm not using that as an excuse at all. I'm just throwing it out there because no one has brought it up. I haven't seen anyone bring it up to this point. How do you guys feel about Zeke? Are you buying Zeke? Are you getting off? What are you doing with this guy who was just a top 3 pick just this past off season?
Now, I would probably say a couple weeks ago, he was a sell for me in a lot of dynasty leagues in terms of, we're talking like more rebuild mode type deals where I could get Swift, maybe Akers, and something else thrown in to get him. So I was kind of playing that card in a few leagues, but now I would be looking to buy him because I believe his value is going so low, and it's not because he's a bad running back. The system he's in is broken. The offensive line is a mess. There's the quarterback. It's not Dak Prescott. It's Andy Dalton. The offense is just not in any rhythm, and he's a talented football player in just a bad situation right now. And there's not many players you can buy at this, with that big of a discount that can give you the ceiling that Zeke can give you in 2021.
I 100% agree with you. And Paulie had an interesting point when we were talking about Carson Wentz, and he said that it's not fair to judge this player under these circumstances.
Yes.
And I feel the exact same way about Zeke. And obviously, I was just about to throw it to you, Paulie. You feel that way as well.
I had a thread with Michael Liu. I'll bring him up again because we have some interesting conversations on Twitter. And I mentioned to him, and I will say I do enjoy conversing with people that have differing viewpoints that I know it's not going to go sideways and somebody's going to get mad and take their ball and go home. I never have that conversation with him. It's always civil. But anyway, he said, has Zeke lost it and all this stuff? And I said, man, we can't judge him on these last 5 weeks. This is a horrible situation. They've been rotating their offensive linemen in and out, and Zach Martin's been hurt and not hurt. They've been their offense is a mess. They lost their quarterback. I'm buying. You've seen me buy him this week. I'm buying. He has one of, if not the best contract in running backs, where there's not an out in his contract until 2023.
Yep.
So he's the man, and as much as he gets paid, they're not going to phase him out and give Tony Pollard a bunch of touches. I mean, Tony Pollard looks good when he gets the ball, but he's not going to take over that backfield. They're going to feed the man that's getting $90 million. And I would totally buy him right now. Absolutely.
So
he might be disappointing for the rest of this season, but for dynasty purposes, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys, I've started a hashtag buy the dip.
Yep.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Buy the dip. I can't imagine our friend at our friend Bauer Club posed a question to Twitter about how far would Ezekiel Elliott have to fall before you selected him in a startup. There were several people who were saying that he would have to fall into the 30s. Folks,
come on now.
That is asinine.
That is asinine.
I can't imagine his value any lower than it is right now, unless he were to go out Sunday and just get hurt. So yeah, I'm a buyer. The people who say Tony Pollard gives the Cowboys the best chance to win, they know nothing about football.
No.
Tony Pollard looks good and exists in a plane where he should thank Ezekiel Elliott every day, because Ezekiel Elliott is the reason Tony Pollard. Situational football. Mike McCarthy has done a good job of playing situational football with these two, and that is why Tony Pollard pops when he gets in the game. I still question whether or not Pollard is built to be an every down back in the NFL, but that's another discussion. Zeke is the man there. Like Paulie said, they've given him all this money. They're not just going to turn around and hand the ball to somebody else. They can't get out from underneath this contract. Jerry Jones doesn't want to get out from underneath this contract. He came out again this week and showered praise and support on Zeke. Whatever's going on this year, just throw it out the window. Just forget it exists. Go get this kid. And I mean, he's only 25 years old.
Yeah.
Until 2 weeks ago, Ezekiel Elliott had never appeared on an injury report of any kind in the NFL.
Wild.
This is a violent position that he plays. He's obviously sturdy. He answers the bell every week. Yeah, I'm buying this kid wherever I can at a discount.
He's looked really bad, but Dynasty's long term. So just,
I've always said,
put your blinders on for this small sample size.
In Dynasty, I've always said there's very few players that there will never be a window of where there's an opportunity to buy them. There's always dips. Most players will always dip at some point, and you get an opportunity. That's when you get the value and you go after the value hard. There's very few players that will, that are actually going to stay skyrocket high. I mean, you're talking like CMC, Mahomes, those kind of guys.
Travis Kelce, you could just pull somebody out of.
They just stay there.
But it's so look at 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when Fulgham was hot. Everybody was going after Fulgham. Everybody was, I want to trade for him. I'm going to go get him. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, boom, value completely gone. Now he's down. Now you have an opportunity to buy at 3/4 of the cost of what it was costing you 2 weeks ago.
1/3.
Yeah. Now you go get it. And
You're right.
You just have to play that game with, and every one of these players is going to have some window to buy. So
You're
keep
right.
an eye out.
Since you brought up some of the young running backs a minute ago, I wanted to mention it's almost just like we drew it up in the offseason, guys. If Jonathan Taylor comes back from his concussion and they continue to feature him, and the Colts have a great run schedule coming up, and if the Ravens continue to feature Dobbins, which I mean we said and shouted from the rooftops that you can't do a 3 or 4 man committee here, and you can't see what Dobbins' value is until you give him the ball some more, and he's definitely better than Ingram. And then Beasley and I said, go buy Swift, and then they unleashed him. He got the concussion, but you would think that they would feature him. Adrian Peterson scored twice, but he didn't look very good between the 20s. I mean, he only had like 50 yards. And then you've got Cam Akers, who has looked the best with his touches the last 2 weeks and started getting featured last week. All 4 of those guys are coming into it right around. I mean, I think we all said between week 11 and 13 is going to be when you unleash the beast, and it's there. I mean, I'm joking about it's the way we drew it up, but I'm not. It's really exactly the way we drew it up.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is in a redraft league, it's just really too late that these guys are fantasy Santas, and they've come too late probably to help you. But in dynasty leagues where these guys were, this is the thing about, you don't have to have a lot of picks to get the guys you want.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example. I traded for a couple of 3 of these guys in several spots, Dobbins and Swift. Impatient people who drafted them, with the 102 or whatever, and expected them to go out and be Saquon Barkley. It just doesn't work that way every time. Some of these kids, they just take time to get acclimated. So, yeah, it's working out. These guys, Akers looked really good against 49ers.
Yeah, he did.
And
looked great.
He was the one that was sort of lagging back that you just weren't sure about.
He's probably the one that you could get for the cheapest right now, I would say, out of the 4 that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's the one that I'm going to be sending, some trade deadline offers for.
Now,
I'm
so good.
Go ahead, buddy. I was just going to say the concussion on Swift probably opened up another buy window for him.
It sure did. Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
I was just gonna. I don't know if you guys saw this afternoon, but in one of our leagues, I called Beard's Shotgun an asshole because he sent me a trade offer, and I was just like, "You're such an asshole," and he goes, "Well, you need a tight end." You know what the offer was?
no,
It was Rob Gronkowski for Cam Akers straight up.
Ooh.
It's like, get the fuck out of here, dude. And he just LOLs me. I'm like,
I'm surprised there's a league that he doesn't have him.
Dude, there's a few leagues that I have Akers in where he's been throwing me these offers for him, and I'm not letting him have them. It's not happening, dude. Get out of here.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with me acquiring Akers is that Beards is probably in, a third of my leagues, and he has them in every single one of them. He loves that guy, and he's a Rams. I think those are his 2 favorite teams are the Jaguars and the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams are definitely his go-to. And
speaking of the Jaguars, do we know how much time DJ Chark's going to miss?
I don't. It was sort of a surprise scratch for me. I didn't expect him to miss last week, and then all of a sudden he was out.
Because I tweeted out about Colin Johnson with Chenault coming back from injury and Chark being a surprise scratch. We talk about it all the time. The quarterback comes off the practice squad, and maybe a guy comes along with him, and you've got Mike Glennon coming out there. I picked up Colin Johnson in a bunch of places, and I didn't play him. I wish I would have. He went off. I was just wondering how much run he's going to get going forward. Is Glennon going to be their guy going forward? They've used like 4 quarterbacks this year. I don't know.
I would think as soon as Minshew is healthy, he's going to get back in there.
You think so?
I can't. I mean, Mike Glennon he's not any good. I mean, he's just not any good. And Chark has a rib thing, I think it is.
Yeah.
Glennon had a clean game, no turnovers, 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
It's pretty good for a third string guy.
yeah.
Crickets.
I mean, I don't know what you want me. He's not good. I mean, good for him that he played probably as well as he can play Sunday. I mean,
I'm not saying the guy's Christ and cleats, but for just hopping out there first
I know
time.
You're not.
But I was pretty impressed with the way he played the first time going out there.
Once upon a time, the Bears gave him $18 million.
Jesus.
Such a bad franchise. Hey, Bears fans, you could have had Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, but you drafted Mitchell Trubisky.
Traded up to draft him.
Traded up with my 49ers.
Traded up one spot
to draft Mitchell Trubisky.
Who else? I was wanting to talk about Kamara. How worried are we here?
Very worried.
Very worried now.
Taysom Hill is completely. He has killed Alvin Kamara. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was averaging 7 receptions a game. He has 1 reception in 2 games with Taysom Hill pretending to be their quarterback. I think he only had 2 targets Sunday. Very worried.
Not getting the red zone work because Taysom's running it in.
Well, Latavius Murray had 2 touchdowns too.
Yeah. Very, very, very worried. I think the Latavius Murray thing was more game script than anything. He is a very talented back. He just happens to play behind Alvin Kamara, who's otherworldly. So when he does get his few touches, he tends to make the most of them. As long as they're going to pretend Taysom Hill is a quarterback, you're going to have to pretend Alvin Kamara is good.
Yep. Agreed.
You're just not going to get that production.
But again, if you're in a rebuild dynasty, but if you're in a rebuild dynasty right now, go get him.
No, you can't bench him. You have to keep putting him out there. It sucks.
I don't think anybody would be, dumb enough to sell him cheap because of this small sample size, but you can try.
There are people
that's
out there
somebody
that will do it.
You could definitely try and throw some offers out there for.
Man,
we say this, and a lot of guys are going to be past the trade deadline by the time this comes out, but we are going to release the video tonight. So,
brother, I saw Aaron Rodgers get traded for Sam Darnold in a pick the other day. So anything can happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shout out to our boy Chalk for pulling that off. I still don't know. I think that guy might have owed you money or something. Maybe
we talked about Austin Eckler in targets and that in the beginning of the season, and he had 16 targets in his return.
So I'll say this about Austin Eckler:
16.
I would go buy him in a dynasty league, and I don't particularly care what it would cost to acquire him. Because he's tied to Herbert through 2024. And like you said, he had 16 targets Sunday.
That's ridiculous.
He was one of the best bargains in drafts this year. I know people thought Tyrod Taylor would play the whole year. I know people were concerned with Tyrod Taylor. You had all the right in the world to be. We saw it the first game. It wasn't anything exciting. But that kid is a baller. And just like you guys said, he's tied to Justin Herbert for the next couple of years. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, go get him. Go get him. I faded him in redraft leagues. I faded him and Kenyon Drake. I faded Hurst and Higbee. I was only right on Austin Eckler. I'm air quote. I was only right on Austin Eckler because he got hurt. Otherwise, that would have been a big miss because Herbert was able to get on the field. I don't think he would have been like Tyrod Taylor would have severely capped his season, his value. But as long as Justin Herbert's going to be the quarterback, I mean, he only has eyes for Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler.
Fantastic.
And occasionally Mike Williams.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to take some shots,
Right.
but they're just not going. They're going to force feed those two guys,
And even less occasionally Jalen Guyton. But
yeah,
the offense, it's going to be a concentrated offense. We talk about that all the time. It's great for DFS too, when you could find a concentrated offense because you could stack real easily. A big part of that offense is going to go through those two guys. Speaking of concentrated offenses, did you see the stat on Metcalf versus the whole team in the first half last week?
as far as yards and things like that.
Yeah, touches and
Production.
yards.
Yeah,
It was like Metcalf in the first half had like 9 catches for 110 yards, and the rest of the offense had 20 opportunities
for
like
like 32.
40.
Yeah, it was
Crazy, dude.
I mean, I talk about getting laughed off the space, but I was also laughed off the space when I suggested that Metcalf would be the next Megatron, and now people are actually using that comparison because he is so dominant. That guy. Whew.
This ties back into our Eagles discussion. They could have had DK Metcalf, but they drafted JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, that's see again. There you go. Shitty upper management. That is so gross.
That's egregious.
It is.
That's almost it's malpractice. Malpractice of a franchise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right, boys. I think we about covered everything. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
I had a couple more players I wanted to drop.
Drop them hot.
We're at an hour and 22 minutes.
Yep.
Drop them, baby.
I remember when you didn't worry when we went over an hour and 30. Yeah, this is one of our longer ones that we've had recently.
That's what she said.
Just a couple guys I wanted to mention. Cotter Hodge from Cleveland is a guy that I've been acquiring over the last few weeks. He hasn't, broke out yet, but he's done very, very, very well with his opportunities. I like what I see in that guy. And you could probably just pick him up off the waiver wire. He's still on waivers in some of my leagues. Gabriel Davis is somebody that we've talked about a bunch throughout our first 25. It is episode 25, by the way. He had another good game, and John Brown will not be there next year. He's another guy I would float offers out for. He'll be the number 2 in that offense, and that kid is good. And Josh Allen trusts him now.
He caught a touchdown from Cole Beasley Sunday, did he not?
Like stole it from him?
No, Beasley threw it.
Beasley threw it to him. Yes, that is correct. Beasley threw it to him.
He's a really good player. We talked about how much we like that kid.
Couple Jets guys. Brashad Perryman is like the wide receiver 2 over the last 3 weeks. He's a wide receiver 2. Sorry, low end wide receiver 2, but he's somebody that might be out there in redraft, even waivers. 11 for 234 and 3.
He's another fantasy Santa. He only comes around this time of year.
Yep, he's a late. You're right, and he did this for Miami, I think, last year or the year before that. Came alive late.
Tampa.
Yep. The last 3 games, 11 for 234 and 3, 23 yards per catch. So he's getting those deep balls. And then the other Jet, Denzel Mims, is the air yards king right now. He's only scoring about 9 or 10 or 11 fantasy points a week. But, I mean, the reason why people talk about air yards is it's a predictor of future fantasy success. And there's a lot of fantasy Twitter that shits on it and says, the air yards doesn't get me points. But it's a very good predictor of future success. That's why it's a thing. And also in Chris Robbins' R model, there were 3 wide receivers that scored over 2 for a correlation to fantasy success: Justin Jefferson, Claypool, and Denzel Mims. So he's a guy that hasn't hit yet, but I firmly believe he will. And because he's been a little disappointing, I think you might be able to get him at a discount. And the only other thing I was going to say that I would like to end the show with from my standpoint is Lamar Jackson went from a quarterback that was very suspect to last year being able to make all the damn throws to this year he can't get his head out of his ass. I don't know what is going on, but he's on this crazy roller coaster of I don't know. I can't explain how he's regressed so much. I know the scheme, defenses have caught on to the scheme and all that, but that doesn't explain to me why he's missing all of these throws. We talk about Carson Wentz all the time, but Lamar Jackson is missing throws left and right that just make me sick.
We talked about, or I talked about this one of our first few episodes when we were dissecting the AFC North. And I said the year 2 under Greg Roman, it just was not going to be as good. It was that way for Colin Kaepernick and Greg Roman. It was that way for Tyrod Taylor and Greg Roman. I mean, we saw Tyrod Taylor have some of his best ball under Greg Roman. I mean, hell, they wrote a rap song about Tyrod Taylor. He was playing so good. I won't say he took the league by storm or anything, but he was playing pretty well.
I get that. I get that part.
The offense that he's playing in is not innovative, and this is who I thought Lamar Jackson was going to be. Like, he played so well last year, there was no way he was going to back that up. He's just not a guy who's going to read the defense, make progressions, and get to his third or fourth read. He's going to take off and run, and defenses know that. So if you can contain his first read, and if you can play defense against Andrews, who is a big loss for them against Pittsburgh, by the way, because he does a lot in the run game too. You can disrupt this offense, and you're seeing it. And another thing, we talked about this. The multiple backs, the running game is not as good as it was last year. There's not one back in there building up that lather and getting that trust and things like that. He's regressed. I think a lot of it has to do with people catching on to what he likes to do, what he's comfortable with, taking him out of his comfort zone, and then him getting happy feet and thinking he can make plays outside the pocket anytime it breaks down for him. That's my take on it. And this is what I thought we would see from him as a professional.
I remember you saying it. You're right. I digress. But he's missing wide open throws. I get the whole thing about, them adjusting to that, simplistic Navy style offense. And I get, them scheming for him better and everything, but he used to be able to make that deep throw. He used to be able to make that tight window throw. I saw it. I remember it. I wasn't dreaming. When he has the opportunity now, despite all these other things breaking down as well, he's missing the throws. Yeah, I don't know if it's hubris. I don't know if it's his attitude that he just thinks he could do it and he's not working on it as hard or what, but goddamn.
By all accounts, he's a good kid. Anytime I've ever heard him, he's always heaped praise onto his teammates. And,
good teammate,
like
good
that.
kid.
So I don't think there's an attitude problem or anything like that. It's hard to put your finger on exactly one thing. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's a lot of things we talked about. And I don't think you're ever going to see it go back to what it was last year.
Yep.
I actually think the offense has a chance to look a little better against the Steelers tomorrow, since RG3 will be the quarterback. And it won't be as predictable as it usually is.
Yeah, but talk about not being able to make the throws. He's
he's not going to be able to take off and run like Lamar. He's going to have to make some throws because even though Dobbins and
He's got wheels. He can take off and run. Absolutely, he can.
RG3 used to have wheels.
Nah, he's still got some wheels.
Tore like 8 ACLs.
He's still got some wheels.
I don't know that Dobbins and Ingram are going to play.
They're going to play. They're traveling separately. If they test tomorrow again negative, that will give them enough negative tests. They've kept them separate. They're leaving on a plane. They're probably on a plane right now, separately from the rest of the team. And they're slated to play.
I know they're eligible to play, but how much are you sticking these guys out there? And they just came off the COVID list.
Yeah, but like you said, COVID affects people differently. Did they just test positive and not get sick and not have symptoms? Then they're fine. And they need J.K. Dobbins bad in this game. So trust me when I say that if he's eligible to play and he tests negative, he's going to be out there. And so will Mark Ingram. They need him bad. With RG3, they need him. They need those guys bad.
They need a lot of guys who they're not gonna have.
Those guys they don't have choices on. If there's a choice, they'll be out there. I think.
BZ, you look like you want to say something.
No,
maybe you just want to go to sleep.
BZ's tired. I can tell.
Can you see it in my eyes?
Yeah.
Hitting that wall, brother.
We're about done. Anyway.
Yep. All right, boys. We're up against it here. Backs against the wall. 2-minute drill. It's a good thing we got Mahomes here quarterbacking. I had a good time tonight. Hope you guys learned something. Hope we were helpful. Remember that the best fantasy discussions are
unscripted.